how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. I am going to answer questions. Well, Aaron and I both are going to answer questions from last week's videos. Yes. Your mic's on, right?
Yeah, I'm on.
It was so windy this morning. I posted some stories on Instagram, and I probably should have taken a shower because I was out on the new property trying to get everything watered. And I think my hair is probably the most textured it has ever been because it's just full of dirt right now.
Ew.
I know, just full of dirt. But, you just kind of have to carry on and get things done. And it just died down. So the wind blew for, 4 or 5 hours. And now it's just fairly still. I've got to go pick up an obelisk fell out of the big pot. And it pulled a bunch of my daffodils out. Awesome. The wind this spring, I've been talking to other people in this area, and we don't remember the last time it's been so windy. I mean, we have a lot of wind here, but not like it's been this spring. It's been incredibly...
And dry, too.
Yeah, really, abnormally dry, and I just planted 350 sweet peas. You'll see that video this week. I planted those 2 days ago, and they were just getting beat up, and I don't even know. I feel like I cannot win out in that space this year. Maybe it's payback for everything doing so well last year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The roots are probably fine. They'll still grow, hopefully. Anyway, first video from last week was planting more cabbage and alliums and placing the new trees. I've got to get my brain in the mindset of last week's videos. My brain's already kind of moved on. I planted another hedge of cabbage in our cut flower garden just to mirror the other side that I had already planted. I planted some serendipity alliums, and then Aaron and we placed the new trees that we brought home. Which were forest pansy redbuds, a katsura tree, and 2 birches. Lindsay, this was the top comment, said, anyone else get excited for garden answer and coffee in the morning? That's a super popular comment, actually.
Yeah.
We see that almost every video, and I think that's so awesome. Thank you to all of you who watch our videos with your coffee in the morning. Stephanie said, when is it okay to start fertilizing my annuals when I planted them with biotone? It depends on what approach you're going with. I think there's 2 different answers to that. If you're wanting to stick with a granulated, an Espoma flower tone fertilizer to follow up your biotone, which is what we're going to be doing a lot of this year just to test it out, they recommend a monthly feeding. I think the problem with that is getting the fertilizer down to soil level once all your annuals have filled in, and it's really hard to get through that canopy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. If you're going with a water-soluble approach, like I know on the Proven Winners fertilizer, which we have used up to this point on our annuals, and we'll still use it this year, we're just going to be in a testing phase, they recommend every 3rd watering, which for us, sometimes we have to water twice a day here. I mean, because of the wind and the extreme heat. So we would be going through so much fertilizer. We have just kind of approached it with a once a week, we can allot time once a week to fertilize our annuals. We can't a lot more than that just because we don't have the time, and it works really well. So it kind of just depends on what approach you want to take. Maria said, quick question, what is the purpose of all that land and tons of trees just for your family to enjoy? Or is this where you grow stuff for your mom's garden center? So my parents' garden center and us, as garden answer, we don't really have any,
There's no business relationship.
There's what?
There's no business relationship.
Right, there's no business relationship. We don't grow anything for them. We order things through them on occasion, but we do get a lot of things sent to us directly from companies now. It doesn't even land at the garden center anymore. So there isn't really any association that way, but we figured we wanted to purchase the property, one, because we wanted more space around us. It does kind of help us, a barrier between us and neighbors, in terms of further development. One side of us is being developed, and we knew that when we bought our house. There were no houses though when we bought the property, but we knew they were all broken up into lots. They just hadn't started to sell them yet. And so obviously they've sold quite a number of the lots and have built on them, but we knew that was going to happen, so it's not a bummer because we jumped in knowing. The other 3 sides of us, so we have one side, and the other 2 sides of us another person owns that has a house near us, so I don't think they have any plans to develop it. In fact, we'd love at some point in time down the road to get our hands on it if we could.
But wouldn't you... Okay, so here's a question for you. Would you develop the land like you're doing it?
No.
If we weren't doing garden answer?
So if we got the property right in front of Versailles, it would turn into a horse pasture.
But what about the stuff that we've already got?
Oh, this stuff?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Would you develop it the way you're developing it if we didn't have garden answer?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
With the cut flower garden and everything?
Yes. I love that garden. Except for the wind. I'm wondering too, like, because I wasn't able to get out into that space and garden in it for a cut flower garden until June of last year. Mm-hmm. The weather in April versus in June is a little bit different. So I wonder if I just did not deal with the same kind of weather issues, like the wind constantly blowing my seeds away, or like keeping everything dry, or beating everything up. I didn't really experience that. Like, I had this window where I was able to get everything up and growing before like any really heavy windstorm set in. That happened later after the sunflowers were really tall. Got that one where I think it was close to 70-mile-an-hour wind gust. That was a doozy. We had to leave that day. I just told Aaron, I got to get out of here. I cannot sit in our house and watch the wind just beat all of my work to a pulp. It's really hard for me to watch that. So this morning was a little rough. I think Aaron was like, just leave her alone. She needs to go water.
Were you having a tender day?
That's what Benjamin said. If he's having a rough day, he's, Mom and Dad, I'm having a tender day. That was my morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the answer to that question is we bought it, one, for personal reasons, but also we bought it because we figured the more space we have, the more opportunity we have to show you guys projects. I mean, our livelihood is from making gardening content, from making videos, and so more space equals more projects, and so that's where we pour the bulk of our budget. I mean, our plant budget is pretty good size, but it's a business budget. It's our business plant budget. So
we take the income we derive, goes back
right
into
the property,
making more videos.
Yeah. I was looking at the state of my clothes the other day, and I'm like, maybe I should
allot a little bit more budget into the clothes.
Maybe just a little bit. I don't know, or maybe I should get my nails done at some point or something. Yeah. I don't think anybody would want to touch these. Anyway. Gabby said, what do you do with the new trees that are not in the ground when it's super windy? We just let them fall.
Well, a lot of them are big enough that the root balls are very heavy. Oh,
you see that big blue spruce? That one's wanting to fall down. I watered that one real heavy this morning. Yeah, I wondered if maybe they had just gotten a little bit too dry. There was a couple trees down, but for the most part they stay upright, which is surprising. Stitch by Stitch said, at what temperature can we pot up our annuals? Well, you just want to make sure you're well past a frost, even a light frost. Typically for us, we wait till the first or second week of May is safer if you wait till mid to late May. Every area will be different in terms of when you get your last frost. Maria said, with all the winds, why don't you plant more willow trees or big weeping cherry trees? Well, if you want a huge mess, you can plant more willow trees. Willows are awesome, but they are a huge mess in windstorms. Like, the little branches fall everywhere. Big weeping cherry trees. How big do weeping cherry trees get?
For us,
I'm thinking like evergreen, like big. Whoa, that was weird. Big blue evergreens or big green evergreen. It doesn't matter what color they are, but a big hedge of evergreens. Like, I can see why people in the Midwest do that. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll see farms with the farmhouse, and then one side will have this row of evergreens, and you'll see that for every farm, and it's as a windbreak. And maybe we should have planned that for out here. Maybe.
Well, we do have the houses though.
It's not really proving to be much of a wind block. However, I did notice that a lot of the wind was shooting from this side. So I wonder, once those are built, people build there, I wonder if it will be quite a bit better, maybe. Pamela said, I'm curious, what is the implement behind the tractor? Was that the land plane?
Oh, yeah.
And that's for maintaining gravel driveways, right? Or ish?
Yeah, I think that's the main reason that it's used, is to maintain. It just, it's for finish work. If you're trying to finish a gravel driveway to make it look nice and...
It's not for leveling out a spot.
Yeah, it'll level out your driveway.
Will it?
Yeah.
But not extremes.
A box blade would be better because it would move more material. Uh-huh. I feel like a land plane is really just the finish, the tool you'd use for finishing.
It does a great job, too.
It does.
Aaron ran it over our gravel driveway where I thought we were going to have to get a new layer of gravel, and it looks brand new.
Just kind of brings the biggest rocks to the top.
Yeah.
It's like sifting it, sort of.
Right. Yeah. Jay said no oak trees. Well, here's the thing with oak trees. I would like to do a little bit more research and figure out which varieties we want. I would like a couple out there. We still have this whole big section, you guys. The one that's going to be kind of coming right up to our house and going out to the new driveway where it will be heavily planted with grass. But we're also going to be putting in lots of large shade trees. And I would like to put a couple oaks in there, but they've got to be types that do not hold their leaves through the winter. I'm not going to do any oak trees that hold their leaves through winter. I think they're kind of ugly, and then they create a huge mess in the spring. We had those kind of behind the gazebo. You guys might remember, those of you who've been watching for a while, but we had a hedge of them that had some kind of a viral issue going on, and it was starting to spread, so we had them all removed. But I don't miss them, not even for a second have I missed them. In fact, that was the only time I've watched kind of like happily watching trees being removed. I'm not usually, even if it's a problem tree, I don't like to watch that process because it's still a huge, it leaves a huge hole in the garden, but those trees were a huge pain. Anyway, next video was setting up our sweet pea trellising, which, yes, sweet peas are out there. I don't know. It went a lot quicker than I thought it was going to go. We set up the trellises using some ranch panels that we had on hand, which are only 4 feet tall. And it is best to use like 5 or 6 foot tall trellising for sweet peas, but I really did not want to go out and buy new stuff. I really just wanted to use what we had on hand, and I think they'll be totally fine. And it's not like we're growing, in fact, we were talking about it this morning, we're not growing things for production necessarily. Like if something fails, if the wind takes out a crop, it's not our livelihood, thank goodness. And it really kind of puts it into perspective. Like you kind of like brought that up this morning as I was lamenting about the sweet peas. He's like, well, listen, like it could be way worse. Mm-hmm. I mean, what if that crop, we were depending on that crop? And that's so true. I need to like remember those kinds of things more often and not get so bummed out. But I think it's natural too. Yeah. Like when you put in a lot of time and effort to get your crops up and you've babied them and put tons of compost and fertilizer down for them. And I actually got sore. That's the first job this year that made me a little bit sore. Anyway, where was I at? Oh, I haven't even gotten to the questions. Top comment was from Manuela. If the sweet peas outgrow the height of the panels, you could always create an arch with reeds or some other material between the 2 rows of panels, creating a sort of sweet pea covered tunnel. That would be magical. That would be magical. I think that would be amazing. I think I'd have to do it like kind of not fully, like not the full tunnel, because I think the only thing that could go wrong with that is that it would shade the interior too much, and the ones on the inside may start to suffer a little bit if they didn't get quite enough sun. But what if I did like, Russell, I will pet you if you just stay right there. He's trying to get to my glass, I think. If we did like something crisscrossing, like every once in a while, like maybe in 3 spots down the row, I think that would be so pretty. Adele said, how do you guys not have a T-post digger? Aaron needs a new tool.
So after I grabbed that comment, and then I thought, yes, why don't I have that? I looked it up. Here's the reason why. I didn't see a good implement that goes on the tractor, and DeWalt doesn't sell a battery-operated one. You got to get a powered, like a gas-powered one, and I'm just not.
How does it work?
It's just like kind of like a hammer motion, I guess.
You probably just figure you don't do it enough.
Yeah, we don't do it enough. It kind of feels like it might be a waste because they're not a ton of money, but they're not cheap either.
Sure, and it's just another thing to hang on to in the barn.
I mean, if I was going to do like a big long fence line, I would for sure invest in one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. Michael said, random, but are you guys going to the garden show in Michigan this year, Mackinac Island? Is it going on this year?
I haven't heard.
I haven't heard either.
You know, I know Michigan is having a big spike right now in COVID cases.
Really?
So, I mean, it's just hard to even think down the road, you know, especially when stuff like that's going on. So I kind of would think that it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, we're
not going to go either way.
No, well, we always, like when we had Benjamin, we took the year off from any traveling, and then Samantha turned 3 months old yesterday, and so we're not going to travel anywhere unless we have the kids with us, but we don't have any plans to go really anywhere at this point. Yeah. Our Montana Garden Craft said, did I miss a dahlia planting video? No, you have not. It's because we're not planting them yet. We had a freezing temperature night last week. We're getting really close. In fact, I'm getting ready. I haven't even divided mine yet. I haven't cut my my tubers yet. I need to do that. Andrea said, would bamboo stakes work for supporting sweet peas? Yes, my mom actually uses those bamboo, they kind of like fold out like a teepee, bamboo teepee. And that's what she uses in her garden. I gave her several of each variety of sweet peas that I started this year. She came over and got all of those and put them in the garden. So we'll get to see them. If mine get wrecked, at least we'll get to see some blooms in their garden, because my parents' vegetable garden, it's interesting. It kind of like sits down and it's very protected, and they hardly ever get a whiff of wind in that area. It's like so protected. So jealous of that space. We need to dig out a big old spot out there, Erin. Make a big sunken garden. Janie said, after amending the soil in your cut flower garden, do you do any other fertilizing throughout the year? I didn't last year. I just lightly amended and then threw the stuff in the ground and just thought, well, we'll see what happens. So I didn't fertilize a thing. Everything did so great. I plan on, we'll see what happens this year, but I was kind of thinking of doing like a mid-season fertilizer, application. But we'll see. I don't know. I feel like since this ground hasn't been utilized in so many years, that it really does offer a lot of nutrients to the plants. Like there's a lot out there. It doesn't look like it, but I do think the soil is better than I initially thought.
I ordered a lot of extra flower tone, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So we've got lots to...
We have a lot of flower tone.
Okay, good. Patricia said, what do you mean pinching some of the sweet peas? Doesn't that stop growth? No, pinching them, instead of them, so they're coming up with one central leader, let's say, like just one sprout. If you pinch it down right above a set of leaves, it creates two branches rather than the one. So it creates a fuller, bushier plant. And so I only pinched about half my sweet peas, and then half of them I just didn't have time to do it. And so they were all stringy and leggy. Those are probably the ones that are the most beat up out there, because they had gotten so leggy in their containers. But yeah, it tends to, when you pinch your sweet peas, it just makes them a little bit more stout. Next video was arranging flowers from our April garden. So I just kind of wanted to walk around the garden and talk you through my process of what I gather, what I look for when I'm getting branches, and like thinking about the structure of my arrangement. And I tend to like a little bit more freeform arrangements. They don't have like a very uniform structure. They're kind of more like, I don't know, more free, I guess. I think I just said that. Anyway, first top comment was from YouTube Girl 86. Kudos to Laura, who does these arrangements backwards. Thank you. I do come forward a few times just to make sure, especially when I'm doing the structure, because when you put your structure branches in, that sets the tone for the rest of the arrangement. If you screw that up, then it's gonna look off to you like the whole time, and the end result may not be like quite what you want. So as long as I can pop forward just a couple of times, which in this case was much easier because I designed on a pillar. Usually we have a table that spans the exact width of the door right in front of me, so I have to crawl under the table in order to come through and look, so I didn't have to do that. That was nice.
Another couple questions I saw a lot of people were asking was, why don't you use a turntable? Is it just because you don't think about it?
No, I don't like the look of them.
Oh. Okay.
So I have a turntable that is marble, and I keep forgetting that, like, aesthetically, it needs to be a pretty process for me the whole time.
And then the other question people were asking was, is there a mirror set up somewhere, or are you looking at the camera display?
Neither. No mirror. Camera display is way too small.
Yeah.
It's like how many feet away from me?
I don't know. It's also like a 3-inch display.
Not even. Well, yeah, it's 3 inches. Yeah. From here, it doesn't look 3 inches.
Yeah.
It looks smaller. The rest of the comment, she knows what works even though she can't see it from the front. This has to be one of the best arrangements I've ever seen. Looks elegant, whimsical, delicate, and just perfection. Thank you. That is such a sweet comment. Vintage Cooking Corner said, I was curious, are there any garden magazines you subscribe to? I know you're more of a paper book girl than Pinterest, and so am I. Yes, so Pinterest, I haven't been on Pinterest for years. I don't even know if I can remember my password to get on there. We used to post on Pinterest as Garden Answer, right? We have a Garden Answer account.
Yeah.
On there, but it's been years.
Yeah.
Since we posted.
It's been a long time, like 2015.
Anyway, I subscribe to Victoria magazine, and I have for years. English Garden is one of my favorite gardening magazines, which I think I let my subscription run out for some, like I think I forgot to renew. I need to do that again. And then I do get Fine Gardening as well. But I like to keep the English Garden and the Victoria magazines because it's something that when I was growing up, my mom kept all of her, in particular the Victoria magazines. And she would have some that dated back into the 80s. And so we would go through her stacks. And for every month, like, so let's say it's April, like it is now, we would go through, my sister and I, we'd pull out every single year's issue of April, and then we'd put that stack out on the coffee table. And so we could look through all the different years and like how the styles had changed and how the look of the magazine, for a very brief time it took on a different look, but then it kind of regained its old look that's so beautiful. Anyway, it's just such a fun thing to do. And now that we have Samantha, now that I have a girl who may enjoy that.
Pass down all
all my magazines. Anyway, I do like looking through those a lot. Christy said, how long before Laura gets a deal with Masterclass? Probably a while.
I think people might be surprised how many people have reached out to us for different opportunities that we have turned down. Just because we have so much freedom doing what we do right now.
That's why we'll never, ever get the blue check mark on Facebook.
It probably is true. It's probably why we'll never get verified, because we
are
just
so
don't...
selective. For me, I wanted to be able to figure out a way to make a comfortable living doing what I love to do, and to where I could stay home, and to where I could also have my kids around me. Speaking of, there's one of them. Hey, Benjamin. Are you in here? Are you chilling? Those things were the most important to me. And when you start saying yes to all these other things, and all of a sudden, your creative freedom goes down, you're much more restricted. And I feel like my work isn't as good when I'm restricted, or when somebody asks me to do something specifically, I'm like, I don't feel inspired to do that. And so I have a really hard time doing that. And then I also didn't want to travel. Like, I would like to travel when I want to travel. I don't want to have to travel for work and for things. Like, I want to be home. So that was really important to me. Terry said, what is the name of the florist who gave you the info on cutting the hellebores? That's Klaus Dalby, who I've talked about quite often. He's got a page on Instagram. It's amazing. He does little videos on there. Very informative. He's got a gorgeous garden. Super full of inspiration and beautiful plants. Great style. We'll link him down below. Next video was a project gone awry and transplanting a Venus dogwood. So I was just sure that beautiful Gothic arch arbor that I had in the front of the cut flower garden last year would fit behind our fireplace. Because like on paper it says it's 6 feet wide. I'm like, well, 6 feet isn't that big. And I mean, it really isn't that wide, but when you put it back there, it just dwarfed the space. And I think just the stature of it, like the height of it and all of that, it just looked wrong. But I just had these visions of a beautiful rose covered arbor that like covered that little pathway leading to our fireplace, kind of magical and such. But sometimes I have to actually go through the motions of putting something together like that to figure out that it won't work. Otherwise, like I wouldn't believe somebody. Like, Erin, did you tell me you thought it wasn't going to fit there? I can't remember if you actually said those words to me or not. And I was like, oh, I gotta do it.
I don't think I ever told you that it wasn't going to fit.
I can't remember. Maybe it was like a small voice in the back of my head telling me it's not going to fit. Just you wait. I don't know. And it certainly did not fit. But there's a lot of wins when you go through a situation like that. One, I now know how to put that arbor together, and I will be able to whip it out super fast when we figure out where we want it on the new property. Two, it did kind of spur us on to, one, get the Venus dogwood planted, which was not happy in its spot for a couple of reasons. First off, when we dug it up, I realized the trunk was buried about 4 inches too deep. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it settled in its hole and I never noticed it, or
well, you didn't plant it.
No,
not to blame anybody else.
We had help planting it, but
yeah.
I'm fairly certain, like, I looked at it.
Yeah.
Like, as it was being backfilled. I was pregnant with Benjamin at the time that we had that planted, and it was a 20-gallon tree. It was big. But it just kind of sat there, and it always bloomed in the spring beautifully, and then it was getting nailed by the grass sprinkler, so it was always covered in hard water, and I'm hoping... I know dogwoods, especially like that one, want to be a little bit more protected, and it's right out in the middle of nowhere on the new property. I don't know, but maybe just getting it out there, maybe it needed some breathing room, and it'll just have a new lease on life out there. That's what I'm hoping for. But we also got the area cleaned up. Paul came in and, like, while I was planting the dogwood tree, he came in and mulched the area, got the stepping stones centered, because they weren't centered on the pathway, and I know why they weren't now. I got to thinking about it. There was a privet hedge right there. And that privet hedge was so wide that it was centered in the walkway, because the privets came way over the bricks.
Yeah, you're right.
So there was like a foot of walking path between the fireplace and the privets when we actually pulled them out. So it made sense why it was like that, but I didn't think of that at the time. Anyway, Top comment from Anne. You're doing a great job, Mama. Could Benjamin be any cuter? Love your videos. Yeah, Benjamin is so encouraging. He just, like, he'll say those things all throughout projects, or like he just came up to me right before this project, this video when we were getting ready to film it. He's just said, I like you, Mama. I'm like, oh, you're so cute.
He is.
Like, he seems to know too when you need to hear it. Stephanie said, I think you could use it in the new property somewhere. Yes, so wait and see what happens with your changes. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking on the bigger of the two corners, kind of on like the high tunnel side, we're going to have a big kind of roundish walkway, big circle thing. And I think we'll be able to really easily tuck it in over there. And we can pick out some new roses. I don't think that those established icebergs would tolerate a move. I mean, we could try it, but I don't know if it's worth the effort. Pearl said, since you live in such a dry area, do you ever worry about your wells running dry? I surprisingly don't. And I know you don't, Erin.
Well, I think it's because we've never heard of a well running dry.
Yeah,
around
never.
Here. So, like, your parents have lived at their house for how long?
30 years, 31 years.
Yeah, so, like, the 30 years that we have experience, you know, like...
I've never heard of anybody else's either running dry in our area.
But I've noticed that comment a lot, that question. A lot of people are concerned about wells running dry.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if that's a thing in other parts of the world where...
If it runs dry, you just dig one deeper, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, can aquifers go dry? Just like completely dry up?
I don't know how it works.
I don't either.
Maybe we should
research?
Yeah, do some learning about that. Tony Ann said, will you eventually reface the fireplace to match the brick you're using in your walkways? Love all the work you're doing, and I can't wait each day to see your videos. So the outdoor fireplace, I don't know if we'll actually reface it. I don't know, how difficult would that be, Erin? You'd have to smooth out, because the stones that are used are actual stones. It's not the fascia.
Right.
So you'd have to like put some kind of either like sand them all down. I don't know if that's even possible. I'm sure it is, but you'd have to get it smooth in order to reface it with anything.
I don't think we would ever put any money into that project.
We'd probably tear it down and build a new one.
Because it doesn't actually draw very well, and maybe it could be fixed. I don't know, but
we don't have plans though to do it. I think it draws okay.
No, it's a lot of smoke that comes out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I wish it operated a little better. Well, you've been out there with the smoke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's outdoor fire. You expect a little smoke.
Yeah, but it is a lot.
I didn't have any plans to reface the fireplace. I don't love the stone that it's built out of, but it kind of just fits. I like that space either way. Rachel said, how do you always manage to dig the hole for planting a tree the exact right depth? I never get it right the first try. I think it comes from years of experience. I don't always get it 100% right though. Usually if it's wrong, it's a little bit on the deep side, and I would rather go a little deeper, and that way I can actually just rock the tree in the hole and put soil underneath one side, rock it up onto the soil and put a little bit more soil under the root ball until I get it to the right level. That way I'm not having to lift the whole thing back out of the hole. But you kind of learn how to eyeball things when you plant a lot of things. I think it just comes with time. Next video was digging up and moving two very established boxwoods, which look amazing where they ended up. I love it. So they were two cone boxwoods at the end of our gazebo, and it was either dig them up and try to move them or let them be trampled to death. And so I mean, if you think about how much it would cost to buy boxwoods that big at the store,
imagine?
It would be expensive, and they're beautiful and they were healthy, and so
you don't even see them that big. I mean, it'd be like $1,000 a piece.
You can order them. Like, I know Bountiful has tons of different options that you can order, especially boxwoods and things like that. But it would be expensive. Top comment was from Veda. I'm with all the rest of your fans. Please film every single thing you can, no matter how mundane you think it is. I found you when lockdown started. Now you've replaced network TV, and my 93-year-old mom and I watch you guys every day. Thank you so much for your kind hearts, hard work, and amazing attitudes. That's a super sweet
really
comment.
nice.
Yes, thank you for that. Every once in a while, I'll have my camera out and I'm filming something outside, and I feel like, I filmed this last year. Because a lot of times we do a lot of the same types of gardening tours every year. We get to onion planting time and garlic planting time, potato planting time. And you think, well, like, it is stuff that we're doing every year, and I want to make sure to capture, especially if I'm moving it to a different spot. But then I start thinking, but I already filmed this. I wonder if people are going to get bored. Like, I don't want to make you guys bored. And so I'm always constantly trying to think, like, is this going to interest you guys? Can I film it in a way that makes it interesting? And that sort of thing. So it's really sweet to read that comment. Are you going to come in here and chill with me? You chilling? You can sit right here if you want. Okay. Kelsey said, can you tell us what your most watched videos are? Do you know?
Well, anybody can look it up. You can just go to our YouTube channel and organize the videos by most viewed. I would guess that it's our potato planting video. I think it's got like 3 million views on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, I think it is.
How
well, okay,
random.
hold on. Let's look it up.
But it depends too, like if you're watching on Facebook versus YouTube, because I think our most watched, of course, on Facebook, especially a couple of years ago when more viral, like small projects were more popular. Like we were getting, we were getting lots and lots of views on those types of projects. And I think like the pumpkin snowman or the cinder block planter got like 60 some
million views, 60
million views. Yeah.
Okay, so the antique dough bowl planter has 4 million views.
That was really pretty, I thought.
Yeah.
A lot of people said it was going to die, and they don't if you take care of them right.
The succulent treehouse fairy garden has almost 4 million views.
Really?
How to plant potatoes is number 3 with 3.8 million. And then succulent tips for beginners. And then house plant garden with a water feature.
So succulent videos are still our top videos.
Yeah.
I haven't done much with succulents. I have a bunch of beautiful ones in the studio. Our content has morphed though through the years.
Well, it really has. We've kind of shifted more toward like landscape gardening.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's also a product of just our lives because in the beginning, we were in the townhouse.
Yeah, we did
and
lots
so naturally you would do more house plant and small things, but you still had landscape plants. You also treated the outside garden like some type of private diary that no one could see. Do you remember how private you were about that?
Yeah, well, it's weird when you start sharing your life on camera.
Yeah.
It's very vulnerable, and I'm used to it now, and I'm used to opinions, and I'm used to some negativity. I'm used to that now. It just kind of rolls off. And it never really bugged me even then, but it was just more of a weird thing,
Yeah, you didn't want anybody to see what the garden looked like outside. And I never understood that. I never understood why you were so private about. You would show in really small sections.
Yeah.
Like you'd film a video and you'd make sure the background was like.
Well, even now, I like to tour the garden when it's mulched.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's just natural for people to want things to. It's like when you have company over to your house, you want to pick up. That's natural, and that's kind of how I feel when I share things online. Even now, Can you bring a train out here? Go get your favorite train. That just bought us like 5 minutes, maybe. We did do a tour though in the very end, like right before we left the house. We did a tour video.
It was like last chance. Like there's no other opportunity because we were moving out.
Yeah. I think I'd already moved containers out and stuff,
and
right?
I want to say one of the reasons that you felt a little bit more comfortable about doing garden tours in this garden is because it wasn't yours. You know what I mean? When you first move into a place, you didn't plant anything.
Oh, that's so true. That is very true because it's like
you're coming along somebody else's garden
and
making it yours over time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's like, here's this garden. This is what somebody else has done. Here are our plans for it.
I wonder if
here's
in your mind that kind of like deflects any of the negativity
maybe
that you may get. Because like, well, hey, I didn't do it.
Is that your favorite train? That is so awesome, buddy. You gotta watch out for the camera though. BK Wood Adventures said, when you finish your property, have you thought of it being a venue area for weddings or family gatherings or rent out for formal pictures for proms or weddings? The only thing that I would probably entertain from that list is family gatherings. I don't really want to open up our private space for public things because, I don't know, I value our privacy, our private area a lot. So I don't think I would want to.
There's a lot to consider when you start thinking about just letting, anyone come onto your property.
Yeah.
And nobody cares about your property the way you do.
Right.
So if you do a wedding venue or something, the amount of cleanup, the grass is always going to be kind of trashed because people are just going to walk on it and set up tents on it.
Well, you have to let it dry out a bit too before you do events on it like that. So.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, and it just the amount of income that could be derived from that, I just have a hard time
imagining. I don't even think of it
imagining.
in terms of income. I just think of it in terms of my peace.
I do, because I'm always thinking about what if YouTube goes away.
And it could. And at that point, I might shift my thinking, you know. And we may actually start using our area to be like a production area to actually grow things to sell. And, you know, and I feel very thankful that we have that space to do that if we should ever need to. But
so if you ever see us starting to sell things, it's because
we're hurting.
Because money's a little tight.
Yeah. I don't know. We're extreme realists. I don't know what I just touched, but my computer just freaked out. We are realists, though, you are more so than me in terms of future planning. But I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Nita said, would your parents consider selling unique stone and have it shipped to our address? Yes, you can contact, if you find a piece of unique stone you like, my mom can organize to have it drop shipped to your home, I think.
But prepare for a pretty expensive shipping bill.
Yeah, shipping is expensive. So if you can go to the Unique Stones website and use their dealer locator, put in your zip code and find a dealer that's like close to you, that's the best way to go, because then you can just go pick it up and you don't have to have it shipped to you. Way cheaper that way. But yes, you can use a supplier that has it. You know, my parents' garden center does. Paula said, when is the gazebo going? We just heard today it will be gone by the end of the month, by the end of April. So. And
we have a date, like, spoiler alert, we have a date for the Hartley.
Like an actual number date?
Okay, so
a range.
the
range is.
You know what though? We have a 2-week range.
Okay.
It's the first or second week of July.
Perfect.
That's a pretty narrow range.
That is a pretty narrow range. Now, what we're doing, because Hartley sends a crew out to set up their portion of the greenhouse, we will have it excavated. So Chad, who's actually working on gravel right now behind our orchard fence, he will be coming as soon as the gazebo's gone, and he's going to take the concrete pad out because it's not the right size. And then we'll have a concrete outfit come in, and I don't think we're going to have a concrete floor, but they're going to put in a stem wall. So they'll put that in, and we'll have our conduit run. So we won't even have our gas and electric trench to the building yet, just the concrete stem wall put up. And then Hartley will come in and install the top part, and then we'll have all the finish work done. So all the brickwork, all the electrical, all the gas. And that's like the only way we could figure out how to do it to where it would be done like in timely reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Because everybody's just so busy and it takes forever to get everybody out. And I think the hardest part is that for a project like this, I mean, you guys know who have ever built anything that has multiple people that you have to work on it, electricians, and then, you know, whatever, masonry people. What are they called?
Masons.
Is it just masons?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it has to be done in a specific order typically. And so to organize everybody's schedule that way is incredibly hard. So it will be a concrete base with a beautiful Hartley top for just a little while until we can get the brickwork done, which we will have scheduled. Now we know we can get that scheduled out.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't sit there very long with a concrete bottom.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get that scheduled for, third or fourth week.
Yeah. It would
July.
be amazing if we had like it operational in terms of air and all of that by the end of August. Hi, thanks for that.
Well, even.
Oh, cool! I could see you in there.
I think that we'll get everything done this year.
I was thinking fall, realistically, by the end of fall. Hopefully, like this winter, we'll be able to use it.
Yep.
Which I'm super happy about because then I didn't feel pressured to start landscaping around it right away. I'll have a winter to look at it in its space and then start dreaming of, like, I've got some rough sketches of the area. What do you got there, buddy? A branch? That's from my flower arrangement. I still haven't cleaned up the floor from the flower arrangement. There's just junk everywhere right there. Oh well.
I do think it will be helpful for when we start doing the process for anybody else who is interested in putting in a glass greenhouse to see the steps.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it's a little bit fuzzy even for us.
Yeah, well, we've never done it before.
Yeah, to know the steps and what you should do first. And I'm sure that we won't get it right necessarily. So anyway.
Hannah said, do you think or know if the old homeowners watch your channel? I don't think so. So Dennis and Mary, who we bought the house from, I know Dennis, they've always been the type to want to flip houses and then they move. This is the house they stayed in the longest, like 10 years before we bought it from them.
And the only reason they didn't flip it fast is because they just got stuck in that whole 2009,
Yeah, that weird.
The recession.
Yeah.
And so housing prices started going down.
Yeah. Dennis does not like to go back and see houses after they've sold it. And they did drive through a couple years after we bought it. It was right when it was like a 104-degree day and all the privets had been torn out. All the boxwoods were just sitting there, hadn't been planted yet. And they're like, nothing was really lined up. And I was like, I have visions for how awesome this is going to be. It looks like junk right now, especially because it's so hot. Everything has such a hot look here. And that's why I don't like hot colors in my garden. One of the reasons, because I want colors to bring the heat level down visually. But anyway, I don't think they do. I know that Mary, I think she may follow on Facebook. Like she may see some pictures and things like that. And we see them often. Like my parents go out to dinner with them all the time. They've actually moved to Mississippi, or in the process of moving to Mississippi from Oregon. So, yeah, they've got a really beautiful home there. Holly said, curious, why didn't you move the box cones to the Versailles garden to match the two bigger of the four corners in the circle? Then move the two smaller boxwoods from there to the west side entrance. Do you have plans to tear out Versailles circle? So it doesn't bother me at all that those boxwoods are not the same size. In fact, it looks like a graduation of size, like with Persephone, like having the taller ones in the back and then the shorter ones in front. It doesn't even clock in on my scale of things to be.
Yes, we plan on tearing it up
one day. Yeah, it bothers Aaron. I don't know how these boxwoods are going to do, and I would hate to dig up two perfectly fine, healthy boxwoods, comfortable in their spots, in an effort to move two boxwoods that may or may not survive. When it needs to be, there needs to be 4 living boxwoods in there, no matter what size they are. Yeah, and it just is more work too. It's 4 extra holes. Benjamin's just kind of cruising around.
Yeah.
And yes, we do plan on eventually taking out the Versailles garden and creating something similar, because I do like the look of that garden. It's very tidy. It's very formal. I like the grass and the gravel and the boxwood hedges and the statuary. I like that look. It's just so peaceful to me, and it looks good all year. The structure never changes. It's just, and there's not a lot. I mean, I plant annuals around the boxwoods, but there's really not a lot that goes away in the wintertime, and I really appreciate that about that part of the yard. But I think eventually we are going to create, we are going to make that. What is the big deal with the table today? It's moving around. We do want to make that our formal entrance to the house eventually, I think. So we'll do a circular driveway, maybe a water feature. This table has a mind of its own. Did you see that?
Is it a ghost?
Yeah. Are you pulling on it from that side?
No.
You sure? Okay. It is a little bit difficult though with the locusts being up there. I mean, they are off.
They're planted off. I guess, when you really think about it, what are you doing?
I just it when you do it once, it should stop doing that, right?
I don't know.
I don't know why. Okay.
One locust split and appears to be healing just fine after being cabled. The other one has been hit by delivery trucks and is kind of a little wonky shaped when you kind of start looking at it. Have you
It's
noticed
a nice
it?
tree. No, I'm not going to look at it like that.
There's a couple branches that don't really make sense, and it's like it splits too low. Does that make sense? There's not enough of a leader or a trunk.
You like things limbed way up though. So
What's that called when all the branches branch out from a really low spot? Is there a name for that?
I don't know.
A low trunk tree?
Yeah. Multi-liter tree.
Something like that.
Multi-liter. I don't know. Last video was successes and failures of winter sowing and overwintering bulbs and containers. So I opened up all of the water jugs that we did the winter sowing in and kind of shared my outcome with you, and then showed you all of the containers that we overwintered bulbs in, and then I moved a bunch of them around. And honestly, as I got to looking through those bulb pots, there was only 4 that didn't come up, and there were 4 hyacinth containers. None of those bulbs came from color blends, by the way. All of the containers that are coming up that look amazing, most of those bulbs are from color blends.
We don't have We've worked with Color Blends, but we don't have like an ongoing
No, they don't
partnership
sponsor
with them.
they don't like sponsor our channel or anything, but I've had such good luck with their stuff. Their bulbs are really good quality and they always work for me. And I could tell in these containers because I saw that some of the other containers where I used other bulbs and I was just like, dang, the luck just wasn't there with those like it was with the others. Anyway, but as I was looking through the pots, most of them, all the bulbs are still alive. They're just growing at different rates. So like you'll have this big container with like a couple of big sections that are up and maybe forming buds, and then you'll see some poking through and then some that are still under the soil, but they look as healthy as can be. So I don't know if it was the location, the water, the whatever, the temperature that we had. And I think we'll get flowers from all of them. I just think it'll just be very spotty. And that's kind of not what I was going for. I wanted to go for like a big impact display somewhere, which I don't think I'm going to get, but that's okay. I'll be able to use the ones that are coming up spotty for cut flowers, which I love to do anyway. And then I was able to make a couple of just little displays, the little grouping in Versailles and then the ones in front of the greenhouse. And once they're all in bloom, it's going to be really pretty, I think. First comment was from 007. Totally off topic, but this weekend while I was roaming around our local nursery buying up a storm, someone approached me and asked me if I was friends with Flora. Realizing we were both wearing garden answer gear, of course I said yes via YouTube. We both laughed and introduced ourselves. What a joyful moment. Afterwards, the owner's daughter approached me wanting to know who is Garden Answer, so I explained now she'll be watching the GA Vibe. That's awesome. Speaking of Garden Answer gear, I think we're going to start to amp that up a bit.
Yeah.
I think we're going to actually start to maybe expand our merch line and do a better job with our merch because we do kind of a crap for a job right now. We basically do nothing right now. So, Jacqueline said, do you keep your clay terracotta pots out all winter? Do they ever crack? I've had one terracotta pot in all of the years of me gardening on my own, in my own garden crack. And that's it. And I keep them out every single winter. It is a risk, especially because we used to be a zone 5. We're now technically a zone 6, but it still gets really cold. And I've got stuff in them and we still water. I think what helps my terracotta pots is the way they're shaped. You know, when you have a pot that's shaped like this, like vase shape, when stuff freezes, it can kind of like bump up in the pot. But if you have a pot that kind of does this, like an urn, where the soil's underneath a shoulder and it's, you know, got water in it and then it tries to freeze, it has nowhere to freeze to. And it's just eventually going to probably crack that pot. So I think the shape of your pots makes a little bit of a difference, but I've had pretty good luck. Michelle said, can you please put more merchandise in your store? Oh. How about a V-neck ladies t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt, a gardening hat, and a zip front sweatshirt? I'm sure it would sell. Plus Mother's Day is coming. True. And yes, we are going to be working on it hard here pretty quick. Marty said, what will you do with all the bulbs in the pots? I would like to slowly work on moving them out to the landscape. I really want in our orchard area to have kind of this wildflower meadow vibe, and I want to have a bunch of bulbs that come up in the spring underneath the orchard trees. Wouldn't that be pretty? When the trees are in bloom and like a bunch of spring bulbs blooming, I just think... I'm actually working on a natives list, so I want to make a custom blend of wildflowers for our area that are native here. Like actually native to Eastern Oregon, Western Idaho. And every single wildflower blend I come across has red and orange in it. And I do think it looks pretty in the mix, but I don't really want those colors. I want it to be like blue, pink, purple, white, yellow, very soft and cool, like I explained earlier, because our landscape is so naturally hot that I want it to be a very cool blend. So I'm coming up with my own mix. Maybe we can package and sell that mix. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. And if I could move some of the bulbs into that area and then other areas, we'll have lots of opportunity on the new property and then also up here where we do our new flower beds to put them. I think we won't be lacking space to plant them. All the ice follies though, in the concrete pots lining the east side fence along our driveway, those are all going to a friend's house. They just bought a new property where they're building a home, and I thought she was commenting on how pretty they were, and I just asked her, do you want them? Because it takes a lot of time too. So she is actually doing me a favor. Like, it might seem like, oh, you're so generous for giving all your bulbs, but in reality, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of bulbs, but at the same time, it would take me so much time to get those placed and dug and, you know, planted in the landscape that it makes me happy that they're going to a home where they're going to be appreciated and that they'll have time to plant them.
Yep.
So anyway, win-win for both of us. Jules said, what's the name and make of the Dolly hand truck and where can I buy one? Did you not put the link in the video?
No, I didn't. I'm not sure what the name of it is. I'll put a link. I'll find out.
Below this video and below the video from this morning. I said in the video you would put a link in the, the description. Yeah. I thought you watched the video. Did you not watch this video?
No, I did. I just missed. I edited it. Oh, well, no, Ken started it, and then I finished it.
It was in the outro.
Huh. How did I miss that?
I don't know.
I edited that part.
It's going through the motions.
Just going through the motions.
Yeah, I do like that dolly. It actually is shaped more more pleasing than the other ones. What did we use before? What were those called?
Pot wheels.
Pot wheels. Those were never shaped right for me. Yeah. Elizabeth said, I was wondering about the round brick concrete sitting area. Did you plant that with bulbs? If so, can we see it? We did plant that. The top level is just brimming with beautiful, I think they're called frosty snow daffodils. And then I planted whatever, daffodils below it in the ring below it. And they're the ones that don't get quite as tall. And they've got like 6 to 8 blooms usually per stem. I just posted a picture of one on Instagram. It has 4 blooms on the stem, but they were so sweet. And it's very pretty, except for, it looks like the bottom level is not coming up quite as well. I think that was a water issue, Erin, because like the tips are browning out already before they even bloom. I think because we pulled all the drip and we were watering the top section, like with the sprinkler. You put a sprinkler in there a couple of times, but I don't think that the water was actually making it down to the second level completely. Because there's one side where the daffs aren't blooming at all on the bottom.
Could be.
I don't know. We're getting rid of the whole thing anyway. And we will replant those bulbs somewhere else. But it's looking really pretty. Last question. How do you decide which seeds to direct sow in the ground and which seeds to sow in a container? I go by what's recommended on the seed package. So you just look on the back and it'll give you 2 sets of instructions. One for transplanting and then one for direct sowing, and it usually has in parentheses the word recommended by whichever one of those methods is recommended. And so I usually go by that because if that's what's recommended, they know more than I do about it. So I usually try that first. But you'll see like on zinnia packages, you'll see transplant and direct sow instructions, and direct sow does say recommended, but you can buy plants at the store of zinnias. So I don't know. I think it depends too on how many you're wanting to plant, honestly. Like if you're wanting just like 4 or 5 zinnia plants, maybe, it's easy just to pick up a 4-pack of zinnias or something. If you're wanting to plant a whole bunch for cutting, seeds definitely are the way to go. And so it is a little easier, takes less space, less grow lights, less, supplies just to direct seed them in the ground. It's pretty easy that way. Unless you have gale force winds, in which case it blows your seeds everywhere and you have to chalk it up as a loss. However, I was out there last night and I saw, Erin, I haven't even told you this, I saw some bees friend is up. I've got some larkspur coming up. I've got nigella coming up. Spotty, but still it's coming up. There's clary sage. I think there's some baby's breath popping through.
That makes me excited.
You don't even care. He just told me yesterday that cut arrangements do nothing for him. I took some pictures, just a little snapshot into Erin's interest. Anyway, I took a bunch of pictures of an arrangement I actually made for my mom with daffodils. We went out there for dinner last night and I cut some viburnum branches and some euonymus. What else? Some redbud branches and then a bunch of different types of daffodils and put them all in a vase together, and I thought it was so pretty and I was like, I should take some pictures of this. So I did, and I was showing him the pictures and he was like, cut arrangements do nothing for me. I didn't know this. And then he proceeded to tell me if he had a garden he probably wouldn't plant a single perennial in it. It would all just be shrubs and annuals and trees maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what does it for me. Like large, well-shaped trees do it for me.
And grass.
I like grass. Well, yeah, well-maintained grass. But large, well-shaped trees are such an investment in time. Mm-hmm. It's like someone had to care for this for like 20 or 30 years to get it to this point.
Yeah.
So to me, that the investment is like, you did this, you kept this tree going. And it looks nice. Okay, so that does it. I really like flowering shrubs. I think that those are cool.
Like what kind of flowering shrubs?
Like hydrangeas. And they seem to go for a lot of the year too. A lot of those, so I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I dislike about a lot of perennials is that they lull for at least here, they lull for so much of the summer, it doesn't feel worth it. Like flowering shrubs seem worth it because they're large and they take up a good amount of space, they flower for a lot of the year, like hydrangeas. And then annuals I like because they flower all summer long. Like from the second you plant them in May till, for us, like sometimes October. That's a lot of the season.
But what would life be like without sedum and veronica and echinacea?
Sedums are cool because they don't really flower.
They do flower. They flower big time.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But the difference, it's kind of like a hydrangea. Once they flower, they just maintain those flowers all through the season. You don't deadhead them. They don't lull. And they just turn a beautiful, beautiful color in the fall.
I do like hostas.
Hostas are awesome. And Brunnera.
Yeah.
Brunnera is awesome.
Yeah, Brunnera is, yeah. Okay, so there's that probably, you know what, if you made a list of a bunch of perennials,
How about
I'd probably...
hellebores?
No, oh man, rip them all out.
Are you serious?
I am not a fan of hellebores. Again, that's something, when they bloom down at the ground.
Not all of them.
Well, many of them.
But they're like a beautiful, delicate, like bell shape.
Yeah, they bloom toward the ground, and then the rest of the season, they just are a nothing burger.
A nothing burger?
Yes.
They bloom for so long. Like they start blooming so early in the season, and then they hold those blooms. You don't have to deadhead them. Their blooms will fade out a little bit, but they're just like so beautiful for the rest of the time.
False.
What about grasses, perennial grasses?
Oh, yeah, I do like grasses.
How about blue fescue grass?
No. No. You know, I think maybe there are a lot of perennials that I like.
I think maybe you would miss them if they were gone.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
It's good to have a mix of all of them.
But I think there's just a lot. The ones that lull out for a lot of the season, like dianthus. Oh, man.
I'm not a huge fan of dianthus myself, though.
Anything that browns out like that you have to deadhead, that's just so much work.
Yeah, and I think in that case, like they come out with a full flush of bloom, and then it says to, shear them back for a second set, but they already have a ton of buds on them.
Yeah.
So you're like shearing off a ton of buds for your next set of bloom, and I don't know. I remember like painstakingly deadheading those at the garden center so that you don't forfeit a single bloom, because when you're selling plants, it's different. You think about things differently, and you're like, these plants need to have color on them because you want them to be attractive. And oh, what a pain.
Phlox? No thanks.
Really?
Yeah. It just blooms early in the season, then you're done.
Oh, the ground cover phlox.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay.
A rare look into the mind of Erin.
As
if anybody wanted to know.
Well, the fact that arrangements do nothing for you, I would at least expect you to appreciate the photography.
I think you do a great job arranging, and you do a good job taking photos of them too. I think I do a pretty good job taking pans, the video pans.
The problem is that usually I take pictures before Erin does any videos, because when I take pictures, I realize like, ooh, I need to tilt the vase like a 1/4 inch to the right or something to catch this bloom at the right stage or whatever. And then whenever you take pans before I take pictures, I can tell like those little fussy things haven't been done, and it bugs me. Nobody else would know, but I do. Anyway, we're like completely rabbit trailing off of, I don't even know where that came from. That has nothing to do with the last question.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Alrighty then. So that is this week's recap video.
On that happy note.
Yeah. Hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.